just going live. Please stand by is on the screen now. So if you were to go to the event page on your computer, you would see a please stand by, hopefully. And all right. And we're on the air. We have not started the show yet, but we do like to have this just in case.
This is a bit of a sound test. If there is anybody watching that can tell us to hear us okay,
that would be nice.
That always makes us feel better.
Okay, and it does take a couple of minutes for any comments that you put down there. It does take a couple of minutes for them to show up here. So we'll see how that goes. But Gary Moore says he's there. Lou Bittner says he's going to be there. Bob Costello is on his way somewhere, but he'll catch us later.
Somebody says they just want to keep learning more about pushing buttons.
Oh, Margie's not going to be there live, so we'll have to see. I don't see any viewers on at all.
And I don't know if David crossed because he's in the Grand Canyon somewhere.
Yeah, they got snow this week. That's crazy. Yep, somebody came in. I don't know who, but nothing on the comments yet. So if you can put a comment down there. Oh, okay. Bill says it looks and sounds great.
Yay,
thank you, Bill. That really makes us feel better.
We can hear a certain amount on our end, but it's not what is being heard out there.
Okay. Bill McKibben's there, says he's watching the test pattern and listening to us talking back and forth. That's good. We have another minute.
Chatter, 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 chatter.
All right. So let's go.
And more and more to learn.
Okay. Let's go back over there.
And if you don't hear us now, that's because we're being quiet.
We're trying to be quiet.
We start right on time, if at all possible.
Derry should have a screen that says, what does this button do now? Earl says we're loud and clear in California.
Yay.
Hi, everyone. And welcome to another episode of What Does This Button Do? By the Geeks on Tour. I'm Jim.
And I'm Chris.
And we are the Geeks on Tour. This is an educational show about smartphones and tablets. Okay. Hi. We do invite you to become a member of geeksontour.com, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later on. And we have a special guest for you today, too. But I'm Jim, and together here with my wife, Chris, we're the Geeks on Tour. Do you think your smartphone is smarter than you? Do you have questions about your Android or your iPad, tablet? And how do you learn about these amazing devices?
Well, we who teach, and we think the best way to learn is a little bit at a time on a regular basis. So that's why we came up with this weekly show. And on our website, geeksontour.com, there are short videos that are available to our members.
Okay. We do invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. All of these shows are recorded and put up there on YouTube and freely available for you to see. Whoops.
What happened?
I don't know. I broke it.
The previous one did have a...
See if you can find it. There you go.
And wasn't there.
Okay, so we do have a good show for you today. I hope it'll be a great show. We'll start with some quick tips and then follow up from last week's show on the Google Now app that we talked about. And I have an example I'd really like to tell you about. Then Chris's beginner's lesson, smartphone apps versus mobile websites. Sometimes you need an app and sometimes you don't. And I'll introduce you to our longtime friend, Frank Drew, and let him tell you about a couple of his favorite apps. If you have any questions, place them in the comments there, and we'll try and get to them live show. And just let us know if you need anything. The show is recorded on YouTube, as I said, and it's on our Geeks On Tour channel. There we go. So where are we now, Chris?
We've been driving since we last did this show.
That's
we
true.
were in New Mexico. Now we are in the middle of Texas. We're parked our rig at an RV park called Thousand Trails at Lake Texas, but there is no decent internet there.
Oh,
so
there's no decent
way
internet.
We can do our show, but we are here because we have a good friend, Frank Drew, and he offered to let us use his house. So
we really appreciate that,
yeah,
Frank.
And it's always good to see old friends, and this is an old friend that we met because of RVing, so it's great. You said that you had a follow-up tip on Google Now?
Well, Google Now is the reason that I took that video at the Stonehenge. Or not,
Stonehenge, right.
There's a Stonehenge in Odessa, Texas, and I took some quadcopter video. That's my favorite thing to do almost
these
days. And it was just such a fun thing, and you can find that on our YouTube channel. Check it out.
There's a Stonehenge in Texas, and he took aerial video.
And I found it because of Google Now. I just had it on my phone, and I looked at this. There's a Stonehenge here. This is cool. So we just drove the RV over there. It was on a college, University of Texas campus, and checked it out. It was a lot of fun.
And I have a couple of tips still from the Google Now session that we did last week. One that we just didn't have time to get to is my favorite use. I say that for everything, don't I? I have dozens of favorite uses of everything we teach. But anyway, on Google Now, I can do note to self, and I'll show you that in a minute, but go to the next slide first.
Okay.
And two things that we discussed during Google Now session last week. One was that I had been looking at flights. I thought that a card was supposed to pop up to keep reminding me about these flights that I was looking at. And I said, I think maybe it only pops up when the price has changed. And so I have good news and bad news.
She told me this earlier.
The good news is that I was absolutely right. It only pops up when the price has changed. So it's a notification about when the price has changed. And it popped up, and it told me that our desired flights had gone up in price $750.
God, I don't know.
It would be sure nice if one of those cards would pop up and say it's gone down, but I think I'm going to have to go back to the drawing board and do some more research.
Or it's going to go up. How about that?
Right.
Knew.
We want it to be prescient, yeah. And another thing that I demonstrated last week was reminder, not for a time, but for a place. So during the show last week, I told Google Now, remind me to call Frank when we get to Lake Whitney. Sure enough, as soon as we crossed the town, the sign that says entering Whitney, Texas, a message popped up, and this is the screenshot of it, that said, call Frank. So both of those things really do work, but they work. Google Now wants them to work. All right, now I want to show you the note to self. And so and you want to switch over to this.
Okay. You have it's easier for you.
Okay. And okay, nothing is showing up. And of course not responding. Close the program.
All right. That's okay.
People have told us, well, they like the fact that this is live and this is real, and it's not a canned PowerPoint show.
That's why I have this screen here that says, please stand by.
Okay. So I can just say, okay, Google, note to self.
Sure. What's
I got a book recommendation to read a title called The Orchid Thief from the people who we met at the hot springs.
Okay, saving.
And what happens is that gets emailed to me. So note to self means send me an email. And I am just using that all the time now.
That's
you just
so
pick up
cool.
your phone, you say the words that bring up Google, and you can send yourself a note. I like that. Okay, those are my quick tips.
Great. How about a beginner's lesson?
Okay, our beginner's lesson this week is about apps versus mobile websites.
Okay.
So first of all, just what is an app versus a website? An app is something that you have to go to your app store for. You download it. It might cost some money. It might be free. It takes up space on your phone. It resides on the phone, or it can use your phone's features like camera. And many of them, they do things that a website cannot do, like notifications, where your phone will pop up notifications. Those are coming from apps. Now, a website, you have to start with opening up a browser and then enter the web address. And it's probably just a smaller version of a website that you can get to on your computer. And there might be a website for something when there. So I'm just going to show you 2 or 3 examples of each to give you the idea of what I'm talking about. Because there's no right or wrong. There's just sometimes an app is better, sometimes there is no app. So let's just look at a couple of examples. And I'm going back to here. Then. And I'm going to start with the iPad. And this topic actually came up because I met several people at the last rally who had a question on Facebook on their phone, and they showed me, and they went to their phone, and I was surprised to see that they did not have a Facebook app. Instead of using a Facebook app, they went to their browser, and Chrome is a browser, Safari is a browser, and they went to Facebook.com. And that just surprised me. And I figured, well, I guess that's no big deal. You can use the website if you want. But so notice that it looks a lot more like the website that you would see on a computer. But there are a few things that you don't get if you're using the app. I mean, the website for Facebook versus the app. For example, sharing pictures or sharing websites. If, for example, here I've been browsing to a web page about Belgium, and I say, ooh, I want to share this on my Facebook. I can tap on the little share icon. It's that square with the up arrow on the iPad. And I will see Facebook as one of the ways to share this if you have the app installed. So we also teach people to share pictures on Facebook. You take a picture, you tap the share button, and you can share it on Facebook. But that only works if you have the app. So you need the app for that. So I say, which should you use? There's no absolute right or wrong, but the Facebook app will be faster. If you use Facebook a lot, yeah, I think you should get the app. If you just want to check it once in a while and you don't want to be taking up any space with the app, then you can use the website. All right, next example is Kindle. So here is my Kindle app, and it is how I read my Kindle books. You do not need a Kindle device. You can just get the app. And there is no website to do this. To read a Kindle book, you need the Kindle app. And what does it do? Well, it allows you to choose. Like when I'm reading it at night, I like to change the text to be white on black. It's easier to read at night, et cetera, et cetera. But what if I wanted to buy a new book? For that, I would need to go to the menu. That's the 3 lines in the upper left. and go to my home page, the library, and the Amazon logo. Now, my point here is that I cannot do this on the app, on the Apple devices. So let's say this book Twisted, for some reason, I want that book. I tap on Twisted. There is no option to buy it using the app. So I would have to go to a browser, either Chrome, Safari, those are your browser choices. And where do Kindle books come from?
I think they come from Amazon, don't they?
Amazon, right. So I can buy that book by going to Amazon. And once it's purchased, then it will be in my library of books on the Kindle app. So there is some place you need an app, some places you need the website. All right, so where I would buy it, then it would show up in my Kindle app. And that took me, though, I was really frustrated when I finally realized that I could not do it in the app. On the Android app, you can, so there are differences. All right, next is Google My Maps. Now, there's Google Maps, and there's Google, Notice that I do not have Google Maps installed on this iPad. So and let's say that I'm usually quite happy with using the Apple Maps, but somebody told me that for some reason I need to look at Google Maps. Well, okay, I can go to a browser. Since Google Maps is a Google product, the browser I use should probably be the Google browser, which is Chrome. So I can go to Maps, maps.google.com. And you will be looking at Google Maps. But what you won't be able to do is navigate. In order to voice-directed turn-by-turn navigation, you have to have the Google Maps app.
Got it.
And that's no problem. It's free. This is just, like I say, showing you the differences between browser-based and app. Now, the third part of Google Maps, though, that I am starting to use a lot now is My Maps. So for making my own maps. And on the Android, which I'll show you in a minute, there is an app called My Maps that is part of Google. There is no such app. You go to the App Store in the Apple world, you will not find My Maps. But where am I? I'm on a browser here.
Right.
At Google Maps. On an
iPad.
On an iPad. And there's a menu. The 3 lines is always a menu. Tap the menu, and there is My Maps. And when we get here, you will see all of the maps that I have created, either on the computer, on an Android device, or on an Apple device. They are all in My Maps. And this is pretty cool stuff. I'm starting to use this for everything to do with maps.
I like it a lot too, yeah.
So I select the 2015 Geeks on Tour map, and in a second, you will see all the stops that I have planned. Even though the app is not available on the Apple device, I can by going to a browser.
There it comes.
All right, and now last but not least, he tells me that I say that all the time too. Okay, all right. So I like this. I say, okay, I'm glad I discovered I can do this on a browser, but I want a shortcut to it on my desktop. Well, we taught how to do this back in episode 38, I think it was 28. Episode 28, we taught how to do that, but just as if you tap the little share icon in the upper right-hand corner, and then more. All right, of course, it's making a liar out of me. I did this earlier. Do I have to copy, or is it that one? Copy. There should be a save to desktop. Share, and Okay. Well, at some places there is a save to desktop, and I think I even did this earlier. Yeah, 2015 map. So this is this is not an app. This is an icon that goes to a web page. I tap that and it'll go straight to that 2015 Google My Map. And I think I'm
Cool.
okay. Can't wait for that to come up. You just go back to episode 28.
Got stuff to do.
Got more stuff to do.
Episode 28 will show you all about that.
So now I have an Android device in my hands, and I just want to show you what I meant by sharing with Facebook. So I say, if you want to take a picture, oh, I have it on myself. All right, well, style. So a picture of myself, share that on Facebook. I would tap the share, but notice that Facebook is not available. And that's because the Facebook app is not installed on this device.
So this is a Samsung tab.
This is a Samsung tablet.
Android
yeah, really
tablet.
cute little Android tablet we just got a few weeks ago. And that works really well. But the Facebook app if I wanted to share in that way. Okay. Now I am on an Android phone, and on Kindle, I just want to show you, I told you when I was on the iPad that I could not buy the book called Twisted. So here I am on my Android phone, and this is how I read my books. This is so easy to read and to hold in my hands.
Yeah, a lot of people think that it's just too small, but
I can read that just great. And it doesn't make my hand tired holding it.
One of the things Chris does as we're traveling down the road is she'll be reading a book to me as we travel. It's better than listening to the radio.
I'm his books on tape.
She's my Audible. That's great.
So I tap the menu on the and notice that there's a little shopping cart icon. So here, right from the app, I could find that book called Twisted and buy it and download it onto this device and then read it on any other device with the, okay. And
that's one of the really cool things about Kindle. It doesn't matter what device you put it on, you can pick up wherever you left off on any other device that has that same account, right?
Yeah. And on Android, the Google My Maps does have an app. And that's what it looks like right there, just the red square with the marker in it. But it gets you pretty much to the spot that using, yeah, but here's your menu. And if you want to learn how to use Google My Maps, there are several videos for members on Geeks On Tour. And it's a pretty cool thing. But these are all the same maps that you saw me show on the iPad. There's 2015.
And if you make a change on one device, it's reflected on all of the other devices.
Absolutely. It's just part of your Google account. And notice here, I also have a POI set for Elks Lodges. I can turn that off just by tapping there. And now it's not cluttering up my menu. But there is also a video on how to. All right. And the last thing I want to show you here is one other reason why you need to have an app is if you want a widget. So, for example, here is my Evernote widget. There's a really nice little shortcuts to make a new Evernote note. But you cannot have that widget unless you first have the app. And we covered that all in, I think that one was 31. But you can look at the list of all our episodes and find the one on web, on widgets.
On widgets.
On widgets.
And you don't get widgets like that on an Apple device.
Okay. And the way on an Android that you make an icon, so for example, do we have an app?
No, we do not have an app, but we do have a website.
But we do have a website. Or let's pick this one, since since you're going to meet Frank Drew in just a minute, and he is CEO of Hey Cupcake. Here is the Hey Cupcake website, and if I wanted to make that an icon on my home screen, tap the little 3-dot menu and choose Add to Home Screen. And I just want it to say, Hey Cupcake. So you can do this with any web page and add it to home screen. And now there it is right there. So you have a little shortcut right on your screen to go to whatever website you want. And that is apps versus websites. Apps are usually better, but only for things that you're going to use all the time. You know, you don't have to have a weather app just to see what weather is coming up. You could go to weather.com on a web page.
Yeah, I've done that for a lot of things out there. And it really is an easier way to do it for things that you don't do all the time.
But things you do all the time, the app is the way to go.
I think so.
Okay.
Go back to the...
All right.
We'll see how that goes. Okay, any questions? I don't see any questions on the screens there. So let's see, we'll go over to here. Jolene says there's a cool video. And be sure to tell him thanks, Frank.
Oh, yeah.
You're welcome. I'm not sure what for.
Bill wants to know, you're not sitting in your RV?
We are not.
We're not sitting in our RV for the first time in a while. Fred Sowerby says he's in Lake Havasu. Hello. Greg Arterburn is in St. Petersburg, Florida. And David Cross is there.
Oh.
Okay. Let's get rid of that then.
Yeah, I'll do that.
And there's Frank Drew. Wow.
Hey.
Hey, Frank.
Hey.
Let me tell you a little bit about Frank first. And he's just a wonderful, wonderful guy. We've known him for a long, long time. When we first started this RVing adventure, a company called Coach Connect. And he's going to tell us how much he loves Wi-Fi in RV parks. So Frank and Jameson ran this company from Austin, Texas, and they put in Wi-Fi in the first RV park where we ever stayed. And it worked great for the most part. And it was a lot of fun. And I started helping the get connected. So the guests in the RV park would get connected to the Coach Connect with my help. Sometimes they needed it. And, you know, it was just started a big tour of the country. So our very first RV rally was at the Great North American RV.
That was fun.
That was fun. That was in Hutchinson, Kansas. And we were the Wi-Fi hotspot for one of the parking lots. And the other parking lots got flooded. Do you remember that?
I do. Storms.
So our history.
You still doing that, Frank?
Absolutely not. And I would most importantly like to say that if any of you have been longtime RVers and had the experience of using early Wi-Fi in parks, let alone Coach Connect Wi-Fi, please do not hold that against me. Jameson and I sold the business in 2007, thankfully. But it was a great 7 years to spend in the RV community. So,
Okay.
and I love getting to know you guys.
And yeah,
That was the best. That was the best part of it all.
getting to know Frank and his family, and they're all here in Waco, Texas. And we're gonna
Don't hold that against me either.
It's beautiful here.
It is. It's gorgeous.
It is really
Great area.
beautiful.
We got out a winery yesterday, and I flew the quadcopter around and met some nice people. And
But we owe it to Frank to be Geeks on Tour.
that's right.
He and Coach Connect introduced us to the RV rallies. And we started doing seminars on Wi-Fi for them. And then once they were out of the picture, we kept doing seminars. And the rest, most of you know.
Well, we got a lot more out of the that's for sure.
I don't
Thank
think so.
I think we did good
Yeah.
on the whole thing. All right.
So yeah, what are you doing now, Frank?
So my wife Beth and I own a company in Austin, Texas called Hey Cupcake. It's about 8 years old, and we make and sell a whole lot of cupcakes from 7 retail locations in Austin. So I went from working with Jim and Chris to help people who are angry with us all the time to making people smile all day long while they eat cupcakes. So that's what we do.
That does sound good.
Okay. So you have a couple of apps that you have as favorites. That's what this section is all about. And yeah, so our app of the week, let's see if we can get that going.
So one of these is more relevant probably to the RV lifestyle than the other. And many of you have Uber, and it seems to be thinking a lot right now instead of booting up. But Uber is a ride-finding program. Let me see what the deal is here.
One thing that we found about the Wi-Fi or the cellular connections in this area of Texas, it's good. I'm on 3G, so that's one of the reasons that we coerced Frank into upgrading his.
There we go.
Okay.
So Uber is a great program or app rather, and it is essentially a taxi cab on demand service. And you probably have heard a lot about it in the last year or two because a lot of taxis about it, but it lets you conveniently find rides and conveniently pay for rides. Now, believe it or not, Uber's in 56 countries already.
Wow.
A ton of cities in the U.S., and it's not just the big cities. For instance, Waco is sort of an outpost, and yet we have Uber in our community. I'm going to move to Austin in a minute so you can see more something more fun. But one of the fun features of it, you get to see where the cars are that can pick you up. So we only in Waco have one car driving right now. But for the sake of illustration, I'm going to zoom out and I'm going to take us to Austin, where there are a ton of cars ready to pick us up.
Yeah, I had certainly heard a lot about Uber, but I just, how exactly does it work? The need. But if I found myself in San Francisco or New York City, this is what I could use, right? And
absolutely. And some of the benefits, and I'll tell you what you're seeing on the map, and then I'll just quickly walk through a couple of features and benefits. The pin is where you want your pickup to location to be. It defaults to your geographic location, although I've moved us. But if I want a car, obviously I can see what's in the area, and as you can see, it's kind of fun. They move. I can click to request a car and set a location. Oops.
Better be careful.
Set
Yeah.
pickup location. So essentially, it'll tell me what my minimum fare is and how expensive it's going to be, and I can also get a fare estimate through another feature on roughly how much the fare will be. The fun thing about this is that it
you see the cars moving.
Yeah, you see the cars moving, but one of the convenient features is that I don't ever have to deal with cash or credit cards. Uber has your credit card stored, and so you hop in and you drive, and you get out and you are all paid up and you don't have to do anything. And after you take your ride, this is a ride I took in September in New York from this lovely gentleman here who looks like a thug, but he was a nice guy. It tells you before, in fact, you get picked up, who your driver is, shows you a picture of your driver, shows you a picture of the car, and then you can actually call the driver if you need to, and you can rate the ride experience. So it's a convenient way to take a modern taxi cab ride, essentially. So that's kind of fun if you're traveling and maybe where you don't think it is or wouldn't think it is, so you can check it out.
And these are just people who want to, they're just little entrepreneurs themselves, right? The drivers?
That's a good question. There are different tiers depending on what city you're in. In Waco, we only have sort of freelancers, and they can drive any kind of car as long as it passes muster with Uber, and they have to take an evaluation. In bigger cities, there are typically 3 levels of service. There's that, professional folks, a lot of whom are taxi cab drivers, actually. And then the 3rd level of service is kind of a black car service. If you want to take an Escalade or a limo or something, then you can get the fancy service instead of just the college kid who is trying to make some extra money.
Okay, so that's Uber. That sounds great. Uber.
Now, the next app I really want to share with you.
And it's a free app, I assume, right?
The app is free. The app is free. The fares are pretty close to what taxi cabs are.
And no tipping. I mean, it just comes.
No tipping, no gratuity. It just there's no exchange of funds.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I like that. The next app, and this might be more relevant for a lot of you folks out on the road, is the app called Dark Sky, and I believe there is a small fee to download Dark Sky. The base Dark Sky is it's an eerily accurate, down to the minute predictor of precipitation, and a lot more. And you can get weather alerts specific to your exact location. It has great maps that include topo and weather, and I'll show you those in just a second. So obviously, there are a lot of similarities between it and other particular, but if there was precipitation, it would literally tell you down to the minute along this line here when it's going to reach you. And it's kind of a neat graphic. Unfortunately, we don't have rain right now, so I can't show you.
It's a beautiful day here.
We don't want rain
here. It says
here.
The nearest precipitation is 154 miles to the north. Another fun feature is you tap anywhere on it, and it gives you at your current location a wind speed, dew point, barometric pressure, ability.
I like that wind speed thing.
Yeah.
Because flying my quadcopter, I don't want wind.
No wind.
Yeah.
No wind allowed.
I really like the maps on the program. It's typical in that you can watch animations of the future and of past, but it's also just kind of fun. You can zoom around the globe and see what the weather in the South Pacific is like, or wherever I am there. So it's aware, and it's all proprietary. Couple of last features, typical sunrise, sunset, but I like this one a lot. On most apps, you can look to the future dates and see percentages of precipitation. But if I actually click on Wednesday, for instance, it will give me a range, a current range of the predicted precipitation. So typical weather program, it says there's a 30% chance on Tuesday in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
But this gets a lot more granular and says, well, between noon and 6 p.m., here's the rain chance, and it's going to be cloudy. And so I think it's a really fun tool. And I have literally sat on my front porch and watched this thing say, rain will be here in 2 minutes. And in 2 minutes, it starts to pour down rain. So it's a lot of fun.
I wonder if it works in Florida. You can almost set your clock on the thunderstorms in the afternoons down there.
Now, I do not see that on the Android.
Well, it's probably because Apple products are better.
No, here we. I was going to give you a little opportunity to talk about this device that you have here, but I don't know if I'll do it then. Yeah.
So, Frank, David wants to know if you make diabetic-friendly cupcakes.
The answer, David, is no. And but unfortunately, we make a tasty, bad-for-you product. We do have gluten-free, though.
Okay.
So
Cool.
that's why I'm so fat.
Those cupcakes. But yes, do go. You are using an iPhone 6 here.
Sure.
6
So this
Plus?
is a 6 Plus, actually. I don't know if you can see it. So it's pretty big compared to, say, the iPhone 5.
Mm-hmm.
And as we've seen, and I'm sure Jim and Chris have talked to you all about the recent past, there's this trend now to get bigger with the phones. And so we're maybe finding a what do they call it? It's a phablet, I think they do now. It's a cross between a phone and a tablet. The reason I got it is because there are some websites that I like to use that I frequently use on a regular basis, several times an hour that are related to my business.
Mm-hmm.
And it requires, sometimes I want to look at spreadsheets. So I don't want to carry around it, but I don't necessarily want to pop open my computer. So this bigger screen really helps me navigate and visualize those websites that I frequent.
Right. And that's the reason I got my Note 3. It's a very large screen. So yeah. So let me pop it on here so you can see a light. So yeah, they're very similar in size, and I just really do enjoy having a big width.
You've been an Apple from the beginning, right?
Always been an Apple person.
All Apple all the time.
Mm-hmm. One of the things, my mother is 75 and she's never turned a computer on in her life, but she has really become good at navigating her iPhone.
And texting.
It's very intuitive, and texting. But the other thing that you can do, and I'm sure you guys have talked about this before, is, and everybody may know this, but making the text bigger on your text or your emails. So you're talking about reading.
Mm-hmm.
And so for my mother, it's really nice. She can magnify the text so that it's a lot easier for her to read on her iPhone.
Well, go ahead and show. You're talking about in settings?
All right.
Yeah.
Or
well, and actually,
real quick, what's the name of that weather program again?
Dark Sky.
Okay, and we'll have a link to it on our
show notes. Yeah.
So just so you know.
Yeah, I think you'll like it. But somewhere in settings, honestly, I'm not size. Here we go.
Yeah, I think I did do that in one of our first episodes, but
need to get out of here to do that.
Here.
Can't see it. Chris will fix it. All right.
Okay, so here we this is in our settings on the iPhone. You can basically drag this to select your text size. So if you move it all the way, your text messages, your emails, all those things will show in a bigger font size.
That's very handy. And there's a setting like that on the Android too.
On most of them, but all Androids are a little bit different. So.
Oh yeah, you can't just point at one and say it's going to be that way all the time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, cool, Frank.
Thanks for having me on. This is fun.
And thanks for giving us our studio for this week.
And feeding us too much food
Next
while
time
we're
I'll
here.
charge you.
We haven't had a cupcake yet, though. Do we have to go to Austin for that? Okay. Well, we do invite you to like us on Facebook. If you do, you'll see the stuff that we do, at least some of it. Well, did you learn something?
We always have review questions of our beginners.
Learn something, Frank?
I did.
What'd you learn?
I learned a lot about the Facebook app because I haven't been very good at that. And then the Google Notes was really helpful.
Google Now, yeah.
Google Now, yeah. I didn't know much about that. That was fun.
All right. So, Chris, true or false? To share with Facebook, the Facebook app must be installed.
That one is absolutely true.
And the Google Maps app,
Google My
Maps app is only available on Android. Can
open a web browser, go to maps.google.com, and then in the menu you will see My Maps.
Okay. Kindle lets you read a book when your device is offline. Therefore, it is A, an app, or B, a website.
Yeah, I didn't show that, did I? When the device is offline, you can still read a book. The book is on your device within the Kindle app. So that isn't that with a website.
Okay. True or false, an app on an Apple device will work exactly the same as an app for the Android device?
No. Some of them can be very different. Evernote, for example, has some really great features that are only on one or the other. But most apps are similar, but not exact.
I've noticed that. And widgets are for A, apps, or B, websites.
That also is app. In order to have a widget, you must first have the app that the widget works with.
Okay. So what's the web page that lists all of our weekly shows?
geeksontour.com, and the menu item says weekly show.
And what's the web page that lists all of our recent newsletters?
geeksontour.com, and the menu item is blogs and articles. First one.
And what benefits do you get by joining Geeks on Tour?
First of all is access to all our tutorial videos on all the topics we teach, not just smartphones and tablets. You can also ask questions in our members Q&A forum.
And we promise to respond.
We do. It might, it might be immediately, it might be a couple of days, but we will respond.
And we didn't say that we would answer the question. We just said that we would.
And we also offer our members show notes on all of these What Does This Button Do shows with direct links to the particular places in the show where something is discussed.
And that's coming in very handy, especially
Yeah.
when we start to look for, when did we do that on that show?
Yeah, you can find the titles, and then inside you get the show notes with links to everything we talked about, et cetera, et cetera.
I invite you to become a member of geeksontour.com. You get all of those benefits, and you get to ask us questions. It's pretty neat. Next week, we're going to do a beginner's lesson on smartphone tablet buyer's overview. We get a lot of questions on
just what are they? What are the different brand names come in? What about the sizes? How big are each of them? Just some overview, mostly on terminology. Really a beginner's lesson on terminology.
Okay. And we'll have a quick tip or two and an app of the week. We'll take your questions. So watch for the notification for next week's show. And make sure you click to say that you're coming. Then we know how many to prepare for and how many cupcakes to order. And leave any questions in the comments below. And we just have such a good time doing this. And Geeks on Tour technology.
What does this button do?
I don't know.
Just keep pushing buttons.
Just keep pushing buttons till something happens. I'm Jim.
I'm Chris.
And we'll see you next week.
Bye, Frank.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks
a lot,
again,
everybody.
Frank. We love you, man.
Me too.